Today's session is on the topic India, a startup nation. Very happy to introduce the chair for today's session. I would like to introduce Dr. Damaswati Ghosh, CEO of IIT Madras Incubation Cell, to chair today's session. Over to you, ma'am, for the session's proceeding.
Thank you, Archana. And thank you, Muthu, again for inviting me to participate in your Ask Me Anything session. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's Ask Me Anything session, where I hope you will take this as an opportunity to ask as many questions freely to our eminent speaker today and benefit from this session. So it is my honor and great pleasure to welcome Mr. Mohandas Pai to hold forth on today's topic. And something that is very close to all our hearts, India, a startups nation. Mr. Pai needs no introduction. As co-founder of iconic Infosys, he's one of the pioneers of India's IT revolution and an ambassador of our startup ecosystem. Recipient of one of India's highest honors, Padma Shri, Mr. Pai is a tireless advocate for India's startup generation, making a difference through various venture funds and serving on the board of National Investment and
Presidente Anel Frasco é a novidade. Eu ressuscitei e trouxe essa merda postar.
Dr. Tama, I think somebody is playing video on and on. I think
you remove that. Remove that person called Sarah or whatever, please.
We are removing them continuously, but we don't know, and we are not getting requests, but they're still in.
Okay, never mind. We'll see how to manage. Just be calm. No problem. We'll manage.
Okay. Shall I continue?
Yeah, please, Tama. Sorry.
It's not your fault. Not your fault at all. So, so as I was saying, he's a trend-setting thought leader. Mr. Pai is also passionate about social causes, including education, guiding boards of the Manipal group and IIT Hyderabad, for example, while initiatives such as Akshaya Patra addresses the cause of hunger in our nation. And closer to home, Mr. Pai is also a guiding voice on the board of IIT Madras Incubation Cell. So with these few words, I would like to welcome Mr. Pai to share his views and elaborate on today's topic. Sir, the floor is all yours. And
folks, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very grateful to be here with you again. When Muthu asked me what I would like to speak on, I said I'd like to speak on India as a startup nation. We are a very old civilization, but a young nation and a young country with an average population of 27 years. We are on the verge of a dramatic transformation of India and Indians because of the advent of digital technologies. To understand the impact of the digital revolution in the world, let's go back 250 years when the Industrial Revolution took off around the world. Before the Industrial Revolution, we had India and China are the largest economies in the world because they are large populations, which are highly skilled. They major manufacturers of tradable commodities, and they were trading. They traded for a long period of time. Then came the Industrial Revolution, and that changed the world, and Europe dominated the global economy. Between 1800 and 1900, and Europe became the largest economy in the world, and then, of course, the United States, an extension of Europe. And Asia came down, pushed further down by colonization and the loot of India by the British. The Industrial Revolution created a supply chain to connect consumers and producers around the world through shipping, railways, pipelines, retail, wholesale, banking, distribution, etc. So anybody who controlled the distribution chain could control the market and connect consumers and producers. It's important for us to understand this and the impact of this. And this is all in the hands of the West, so-called OECD, Europe, and the United States. And this allowed them to have disproportionate profits, dominate global trade. But over the last 15 years, we have seen another development which is threatening and has threatened and has demonstrated its ability to disrupt the rise of the internet. Why is the internet important? Because the internet connects everybody around the world on one single platform to synchronously or asynchronously do business, talk to each other, get entertained, get education, transact business, and anything else. And this single development, aided by the growth of the mobile and software and by connectivity at low cost, has changed the globe. To give you some data, out of 7.8 billion people on the planet, 6 billion people have a mobile device, 5.5 billion people are on the internet, 4.5 billion people are on social media. So the world has changed. And the changed world was shown up for everybody when the world shut down because of COVID. When the world shut down because of COVID, people in large part of the world immediately shifted to e-commerce to get their goods and supplies, Netflix and Hotstar for entertainment, e-banking, e-health, e-education, and everything else. They stayed home and they didn't miss much except the company of their friends and the cup of tea or coffee they used to have in the cafes or a walk in the park. Everybody carried on almost seamlessly. And this is because the digital infrastructure is already there. The digital goods and services were already there. The digital technologies were there. But suddenly, everybody changed their habits. Data says that if somebody does something new for 45 days continuously, the habits are changed forever. So most people have now transformed, or at least the major part of the consuming world has transformed to the digital economy. And this will have greater impact in future. And a series of events have happened which have disrupted traditional industries for the last 15 years. Take the auto industry. The auto industry makes 90 million four-wheelers per year. It's $2 trillion. The IC engine has been there for 150 years. But over the last 10 years, we've seen the rise of the electric vehicle. And the disruptive ability of the electric vehicle is seen by the value of Tesla. Tesla just announced the last quarter result. They made $1.2 billion of profits in one quarter. I think selling some 100,000 vehicles or something like that. Very small number. But why should an electric vehicle company be more valuable than all the auto companies who've been there for 100 years? And the reason is very simple. People invest in the future. And the electric vehicle industry is disrupting the traditional IC engine industry. You know that IC engine has 2,000 moving parts. An electric engine has only 20 moving parts. An electric engine can go for 500,000 kilometers or more, where the IC engine has to be repaired after 100,000 odd kilometers. And the electric vehicle, along with autonomous cars and the rise of technology and radar and other things, and 5G, is going to change the way we commute. This, along with business model innovation, like the sharing economy, will make sure that people don't buy too many cars, and we have cars for use of everybody. And this will reduce the amount invested in idle assets. You must be aware that 90% of the time a car is not being used. 10% of the real estate in the United States is used for parking. And the costs are tremendous on society. Yes, there could be job losses, there could be other things. But you're seeing the disruption in the electric vehicle industry. And the IC engine has hurt the environment and caused pollution in a large way. And Germany has said by 2030, they're going to ease out IC engine economy fully. So we're going to see a massive shift to electric vehicles from now till 2030, when it will become mainstream. Right now, maybe this year, 3 to 4 million electric vehicles are going to be sold, maybe 30-40% by 2030. And all across the world, this is ramping up. What impact will this have on the energy industry? The oil industry is worth $6.5 trillion at a time when oil was $140 a barrel. Oil crashed because of shale gas in the United States. The US was the largest exporter of oil in 1971. Now again, it's become the largest producer of oil. in the last 3 years because of shale gas and technology. And when the COVID happened, the world's consumption of 100 million barrels per day came down to 70 million barrels. Oil crashed to $15, went negative in derivatives, and the oil producing economies were deeply hurt. Saudi Arabia, which has a budget which is balanced at $80, was deeply hurt. They drew down their $550 billion of reserves to $400 billion today, and they're transforming. And we saw a massive shift. But oil is coming back slowly. But I believe that peak oil is already behind us. We're not going to go beyond 100 million barrels. Now, mobility consumes 60% of the world's oil production. If a large part of mobility is by electric vehicles, what will happen to oil? What will happen to shipping? What will happen to pipelines? What will happen to petrol bunks? What will happen to all the other paraphernalia of the oil economy? They're going to go down. And another industry which is getting disrupted is the energy industry. 60% of the world's energy is through coal. And the UK has not used coal for the first time for 2 years since the Industrial Revolution. Germany gets 30% of its energy through wind and solar. India gets 10% of its energy through wind and solar. And all over the world, there's a move towards wind and solar. And solar energy has become cheaper than any other form of energy and is almost unlimited. So we are seeing rapid change in human behavior all around the world in a significant way. Imagine that you have a solar panel on your roof, you get the sun's energy, convert into electricity, put into a panel in your house, plug your car and go for 400 kilometers per day. And the car comes back. You can use the cars as a lighting source for your house, all on solar energy with no cost for fuel. And you don't even need the car. You can have a two-wheeler, you can have anything else. And you become self-sufficient. What happens to the power grid for residences? So many questions come up about the level of disruption that's happening in 3 big industries: auto, energy, and oil. Another big industry is financial services. For the last 15 years, financial services and banking have shrunk physically. You have bank branches which are now maybe 1/5 of what they were, because people don't go to bank branches. Everything is done electronically. The payment industry has got disrupted. All in the world, people are paying electronically. Check signing and check encashment is coming down. Use of cash is coming down. Even in India too. I'll talk about India later. And the asset side of the banks, lending is getting disrupted by securitization and fintech. And the liability side, investment is for individuals is getting disrupted too. But the banking sector is getting disrupted in a big way, and jobs in banking are coming down in the West. So the financial sector is going to get disrupted in a big way. In the stock market, 45-50% of all investment are ETFs, exchange traded funds, which are linked to the index. They're no longer the kind of mutual funds that were there maybe 15-20 years back. And even the stock market, we're seeing the impact of digitalization. Of the top 10 most valuable companies in the world, 9 are digital companies. Apple has gone beyond 2 trillion, Microsoft 2 trillion, Alphabet, Amazon 1.6 trillion. We are seeing Facebook go up to 1 trillion. We've seen Samsung at 600, 700 billion, Alibaba, Tencent, everybody. Only Berkshire Hathaway is there in the top 10 from what I know. The markets are spoken, the financial markets are spoken. And the financial market is going to be very different globally now. The central banks of the world have got $25 trillion of assets in the balance sheet. Never seen figure before. 20 trillion has come through printing currency notes as a part of the stimulus for the COVID pandemic. And they're not going to reduce that anytime soon because there are too many zombie firms, and they brought the interest rates down. Out of $40 trillion of OECD securities, $20 trillion are negative. That means in Japan and Germany, you buy a government security, you may get less when they pay you back. There's no interest. For the first time in the US, junk bond interest rates are less than the inflation rates. And 30-year housing loans has come down to 2.5%, 3%, never seen before. So the world is flush with money, interest rates all come down, and we are seeing pension funds get deeply hurt because pension funds are now allocating more money to equity. They're not earning any money because government is not borrowing, paying interest. Government is borrowing, but not paying too much of interest in most countries. And that is a big problem. People are borrowing 10-year money at 1.5%, 2% a year, which is a joke. And this is not going to pay interest for many people who depend upon their pension savings. So the financial sector has got disrupted in a very big way. The health sector is getting disrupted. Name the sector, and that is getting disrupted in an extremely big way. Entertainment got disrupted. The music industry got disrupted, etc. So going forward, we're going to see a very different world by 2030. But the biggest global disruption is population. The world is aging at a pace never seen before. The UN has said 5 years back that the world's population stabilized at 11 billion by 2100. Now they say it's 9.6 billion. Japan has got negative population growth. They're shrinking. China's population stopped growing. They're not having enough babies. Russia is not growing at all. The whole of Europe is having, aging and having negative population growth, except for immigration. Even the US has seen population grow by 0.35%. Fertility has crashed. People are just not working hard to make babies. Even South America is facing the same. Only Africa is growing. Even in India, our fertility has come to 2.0. We need 2.3 for replacement, but we are 2.0. The whole of South India is 1.7. West Bengal is 1.6. Of course, many of the Bengalis are going away from Bengal for many reasons. Punjab is 1.6. Of course, the Punjabis are going away to UK and Canada in big, big numbers. But whatever it is, we are seeing a very, very large part of the world grow older. Japan has got 35% of its people above 65. India has got 130 million people, nearly 10% above the age of 60. And when people age, you don't have enough young people to work to pay their pension, there's going to be chaos. And you're also going to have new industries come up. In Japan, adult diapers sell more than baby diapers. And in Japan, 10% of real estate is unclaimed because people have died. They don't know who the successors are. Nobody wants to reclaim them. Whole villages and whole small towns are getting devastated because of lack of population. The same thing is going to happen all over. Even India, population is stabilizing pretty rapidly. By 2045, it will be stabilized. By 2045, the world will become older. By 2045, the white population in America will become lesser than the Hispanic population. But these kind of demographic changes are accelerating and will accelerate further because of the digital revolution and because of COVID and other activities. And climate change is becoming a reality. In COVID, people saw blue skies and clear water. And now civil society is insisting that climate change needs to be reversed. Carbon discharge in the environment has to be reversed. And they're putting in stricter norms. And there's unanimous consensus around the world that we have to do this to save our planet, because everybody is suffering the consequences of climate change. Now, what about India? India has undergone a tremendous digital revolution. Out of 1.38 billion people, there are 1.2 billion mobile connections, 900 million mobile phones, 700 million people on the internet, and 500 million people are on social media. And today, we are seeing the rise of the startup industry. India has a great software service industry. We are going to export $170 billion of software this year, more than the oil exports from Saudi Arabia. And we have only tapped in 2 or 3% of the brain power that India has. We have an inexhaustible source of brain power to market to the world, and that will give us great resources to grow. This 170 billion will become 250 billion by 2025. This year and next year, the IT service industry is growing in double digits. Of the top 10 software service companies by market value, 5 are Indian. Of the top 5, 3 are Indian. Of the 2.8 million employees, the top 10, 2 million are Indians. Of 6 million people who are in software in America, 1 million are Indians. Out of the 5 million working in the software service industry, 2.5 million work for American companies. Out of 8.5 million working for American companies, 3.5 million are Indians. 35% of startups in Silicon Valley are Indians. We get 60% global outsourcing for software, and we do very, very sophisticated work. Some people, especially the economists in the UK, say, oh, these are all the back office work. This is not the back office work, this is the front office work. This is all cutting edge critical work that is being done in India using artificial intelligence, machine learning. and everything else. The only thing India lacks is cutting-edge research, because people in IIT are not spending enough money in research because they don't have enough money. And India has only spends 5,500 crores in research in the universities, which is peanuts compared to what is being spent in China and the US. China is spending $150 billion on AI by 2022 to beat the United States. So on top of that, we have a startup industry. We have 55,000 startups. They created 58 unicorns. They created $350 billion of value, employ 1.4 million people. From 2014 till now, we got $70 billion of capital coming in. $12 billion of capital has come this calendar year so far. And by 2025, we'll have 100,000 startups, 150 unicorns, creating $1 trillion of value, employing 3.5 million people. We're undergoing the fastest digital transformation ever. In the stock market, the software service companies, the big five, are worth $350 billion. And if you take the smaller companies, the total value is $400 billion. And by 2025, including the IPOs and the software service companies, the market value of the digital economy could be, in the listed space, $1 trillion. And we could have nearly 700 billion in the unlisted space, 1.7 to 1.8 trillion dollars of value by 2025. So India is undergoing a tremendous change all over. And Prime Minister Modi has spoken about Digital India 5 years back. The vision is coming true, led by young entrepreneurs in this country. And we're going to see much more of it. People say, are you cutting edge? We are 2 years behind Silicon Valley. I think people who work in IIT, people who work in Bangalore know how close we are, because in Bangalore, most of Silicon Valley companies have their engineering centers in Bangalore. We see a lot of R&D being done here. They get the credit, but R&D is being done here. The brains are here. Just a few days back, a young startup called Darwinbox was reckoned to be better in HR SaaS cloud than SAP and Oracle. Can you believe that? And they only had $20 million of revenue. So we're seeing Zoho in Chennai. We're seeing Freshworks in Chennai. The SaaS company is growing very well. And the range of technology is shooting up all across India. And India is a startup nation, the third largest ecosystem in the world. And this is going to get better and better as we get access to capital. China invests $65 billion a year a venture. America, $135 billion. We just invest $10 billion this year, maybe $20 billion. From now till 2025, India is going to get $150 to $200 billion in venture capital into startups. And all that is going to accelerate digital revolution. And India has got a very unique model of building public assets for many areas. For example, payments. UPI did 2.8 billion transactions. You can transfer money on a mobile from one bank account to another to the banking system in 30 seconds with hardly any cost. You've got Arogya Setu, which has got more than 200 million people on that. And Arogya Setu reached 50 million in 13 days. Pokemon did it in 18 days. And the airline took 60 years to get 50 million. The speed of change is becoming extremely rapid, driven by innovation. What we require is more capital. We require more research in the universities. And that is beginning to happen in a short way, in a small way. And it will accelerate in future. But today in the technology world, there is seamless transfer of technology. There's seamless discussion among the brightest people in the world. And everybody is networked together. And the COVID has taught us we're all part of the same network. And these innovation networks are getting bigger and bigger, and India is a large part of it. And that's why I said I'll speak on a startup nation. And government is using the technology to help people at the bottom of the pyramid. 17 lakh crores has been transferred directly to bank accounts in the last 7 years. 500 million bank accounts have been opened. 1.2 billion people have an Aadhaar connection. And our digital infrastructure, which is publicly held, is second to none in the world. And we're building the world's largest insurance program. 500 million people will get insurance. About 20 million already had operations free of cost in the last 2 years. And the development that is happening in India, all across India, driven by entrepreneurs, driven by your young people, driven by the IT service industry, is unbelievable. This year, India will hire 400 to 500,000 engineers, the largest hiring of engineers by any country anywhere in the world. And by 2030, India will have more than 10 million people working in technology, 1 crore people working in technology, the biggest workforce in technology, beating China by 2030. Because we not only take care of ourselves, we take care of the world too. Being the largest software service provider to the whole world. And our universities too are churning out good graduates, 800,000 engineers a year. 200,000 are very good, 200,000 can be trained. And the balance can drive a Ola Uber. They know that if you open the bonnet, there's something called an engine there. And we are going to have many young people learn coding. In India soon, coding is going to be taught in schools. It's just like what Devang Mehta once said long ago before he died. Roti, kapda, makan, or software. And roti, kapda, makan, and bandwidth. He spoke about bandwidth and coding. So we are going through this process of rapid innovation in many facets of work. When COVID happened, people shifted to e-commerce, people shifted to banking, people shifted to entertainment by Hotstar and Netflix, people shifted to e-health, and people shifted to education. Baiju had a revenue of 5,600 crores in March 2021 and is today worth about $16.5 billion. So we're seeing this surge of companies coming to raise capital. Capital was the biggest constraint for us. Capital has become better. It's still a big constraint. And I do hope that all of you in the IIT Madras system will use your access to capital. Now, I've been a part of Tamaswati's group with Professor Junjunwala for the last 1.5 to 2 years. And I do wish that all of you will connect to providers of capital. You have technology, you have everybody else. In the next 2-3 years, you have to scale up rapidly. And scaling up requires capital. You've got to access capital. You've got to raise capital. And you've got to invest the capital. And you've got to grow. Because if you don't grow, you'll be overtaken by somebody else. Because the innovation cycles have become shorter and shorter. So I'll stop here and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pai, for a very, very wonderful, introduction. Just very curious. I mean, this is a question many of our startups wonder about. What is the scope and opportunity for companies beyond SaaS and enterprise? I do understand that's sort of our forte in India, as you kind of spoke about, and the digital revolution that's taking place. But what about companies that are focusing on core engineering, hardware, technologies? Is there something they can still do well here, or should they look beyond India?
Tama, electric vehicles technologies are scaling up rapidly. You know that Ola is setting up a two-wheeler plant, and near Bangalore, in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu, and Ather, your own company, has done that. Yes. Hero Motors is doing that, and Rajiv Bajaj is doing that. So the technology purchases in that area is going to go up tremendously. So electric motor and electrical vehicle system are going up. Alternate energy system, management systems are going up, right? Now, you're also seeing many enterprise products in deep technology like AI going up. Bitcoin is beginning to take off now for use in banking technologies, right? You're seeing 3D printing take off in a very, very big way with very sophistication being made. You're seeing robotics take off in a very big way. Most manufacturing is getting to be robotics. And that's where material science is beginning to take off in a very big way, correct? And you're seeing, name the field of activity. Today, we are maybe 5x of what we were maybe 4 years ago. And by 2025, it could be 20x, 100x of where we are today. Because we are now enter the J curve. And why is that? Because traditional industry in India has understood in the COVID times that unless they go digital, there's no future for them. Look at what Jio has done. Jio is going to have 2 million, 3 million Kirana store network. They'll collect all their orders and go to Hindustan Lever and say, hey man, I got 40% of your orders. What is your price? Look at the power of Jio. Look at the power of all the entertainment networks. Look at the number of young companies that have come in digital media all over. They're not making money because they don't know how to make a model, but they are there. They disrupted the traditional media, right? Look at payments, 2.8 billion transactions. Look at all the payment companies, Razorpay, Paytm, and many others who have come. Look at the transactions rise that are coming. Look at the neobanks that have come. Look at the, discount brokers like Zerodha, Upstock, and others. See, every field of activity, you've seen tremendous growth, and they're all growing. So B2C has become bigger than B2B. B2C because, you can connect to consumers directly. Look at the supply chain companies like Delivery and others. They all become unicorns in the last 2 years. And they're going to have a much bigger share. And look at even Indian Railways. Goods transport is now going at 50 kilometers an hour as against 24 kilometers before COVID. And look at the road network that is being built. You can go from Chennai to Delhi in 1.5 days. It used to take 3 days earlier, right? So that kind of transformation of the edge is unbelievable. So you must always see transformation of the edge. And go to any manufacturing plant. They make the prototypes using 3D printing digitally, and then they're trying to make the product using robotics. The purchase of robots has gone up. Go to any warehouse today, you find robots on the floor much more than people, right? So we are maybe 2 or 3 years behind the US in terms of deep technology. We were 5 years behind, maybe 5 years ago. Now we are 2 years behind. But our lack was capital. That capital is coming in. And our lack was lack of ambition. I mean, I want your incubation to be 5x of where you are, Tama.
Yes.
2 years. That's why you have Professor Jundinwala's 10x.
Yes. Yes.
So you got to grow, you got to aspire, and you got to do that. We got to be aggressive. We got to grow and I see it happening among young entrepreneurs because I'm in Bangalore. In Bangalore, we have got out of 1.1 crore people, 20 lakh people in technology. Bangalore is hiring 2.5 lakh engineers this year. 2.5 lakh engineers in one single city. So we are seeing this kind of upsurge. B2B is also beginning to take off. I told you about Darwin Box, just beaten SAP and Oracle. Remember, SAP and Oracle? They are the giants. They started the industry.
Yeah.
And this is better than them because they are in SaaS cloud. See, our B2B companies are small because our businesses are not buying enough B2B. They have to go to the US. That's why Zoho and others went to the US. They're growing. Now Zoho's market in India is expanding rapidly. The price points are still low. So I would say for B2B, you have to be in India and the US. India will give you larger numbers and America will give you the revenues. But you need to access capital. It's going to become a capital game, not a technology game. Even in the US, it was always a capital game. Technology came next because you had deep technology, but unless you access capital and use it to grow, you will never grew and became big, right? But they had surplus capital. India didn't have surplus capital, right? Now they're all accessing surplus capital. Look at Ather. They're accessing capital as if there's no tomorrow. They're expanding. Look at Ola. Look at the ambitions of Bhavish, right?
So that was my follow-up question actually on the capital itself. And this is something that we've seen many of our companies, Ather, of course, now they are truly expanding because of the infusion of capital. Many of our companies, hit a sort of a stagnation of some kind because of the amount of time it takes to truly have our Indian angel and VC community to champion them and support them, right? So up to Series A, we have seen it's quite a easy journey, provided you have the initial traction and the the technology, differentiation and so forth, the innovation itself. But they're hitting that stagnation and they have to look abroad because they're still not getting enough capital backing right now in India. Is that true?
I've been in this field since 2012. It's certainly true.
Yes.
It's becoming better and better.
But
look at Baiju.
Yeah.
Baiju has raised $4 billion. How did he raise it? Look, capital is a result of effective marketing. When you go to investor, there's only two things that investor can be moved: greed and fear. Greed that is going to miss out and not make that money, and the fear that somebody else will step in and take it away. So you got to be confident. You must learn how to market yourself. You must learn how to sell, and you must go to the touch points. And sadly, techies are not very good marketeers in business or in raising capital. They're very conservative.
Yes.
Correct. Now, if you're worth 3 billion and you got a 10% share, is 300 million, man. Don't forget. Don't get worried about dilution. So you must. Raising capital is a constant game. You can't go raise capital when you want it. So every month, every quarter, you got to go before investors. You got to talk to them. You got to build goodwill. You got to keep doing it all the time. So when you want to raise capital, people are available because people know you. I was CFO of Infosys from 94 till 2011. I don't like saying it again and again. But I used to meet 300 investors when we were a small company in 1994. We didn't want to raise capital, but we used to meet them. We should tell a story. We should travel overseas. Because you have to constantly tell a story, create your brand in the investor community. Because investment is an act of faith. They got to have faith in you. That means you have to reach out, you have to market. And for the big investor, there is clutter. When you got a choice of 10 companies, why should they invest in you? So you must go market. You must know how to market. You must have good pitch decks. And you must go make sure that you communicate properly and keep in touch with people.
Sure. I think we have a question from Inuade Prem. Can you switch on your mic and ask your question?
Yeah, thanks, Tama.
Yeah.
So I've been hearing all this year that population growth explosion as a problem, but today is the first time I'm hearing that the slow rate of population growth is also a problem. So can you kindly clarify, sir?
Sipa, in India, all these people who open their mouth never look at data. Tamil Nadu's population is growing, fertility is 1.7%, man. You know, if you look at ASHE data, All India Higher Education Survey data, you'll find the number of people in the age group 18 to 23 has come down in Tamil Nadu compared to 7 years ago. If you look at class 1 data in Tamil Nadu schools, the number of children going to class 1 today is 25% less than 15 years ago. And Tamil Nadu has got 52% GER in the age group of 18 to 23. So Tamil Nadu's population is aging. So now all of South India has come to 1.7. Now you see politicians like this population, because, you know, they want to create an emotion between different clans of people, create their own lobbies, right? But today, because of higher education, you know, population growth has come down. South India is highly educated more than North India. And if you look at data in the National Family Survey data, you will find that a postgraduate woman has only 1 child. A graduate has 1.5 average. Class 10 has 2. Class less than class 10 has 3. So the more women get educated, the less they have babies. And they control themselves. They are able to control their families. And 2, you'll be very happy. Last year, for the first time in India's history, the gross enrollment rate for women was higher than men. More women graduates are coming out as a percentage of the women population than men. Of course, in Tamil Nadu it's been higher for some time. In the south it's been higher, but all across India, including UP. So India has undergone a social transformation, and this impact has been there on population. So our fertility, we require 2.3 for replacement. We are at 2.0, the latest data.
Thank you, sir.
I think there was a question from Mallikarjuna Reddy. I think he had, so I'm just going to read it out. When you say infertility is an issue in developed countries and negative population growth, could you provide some insights on health and fitness industry? How is pandemic helping it? How is the future?
You know, many people used to come to me and say, oh, we need a dictatorship. India is indisciplined. I used to ask them, what is your most important asset? Oh, they used to say, my home and all. I used to say, the most important asset is your life. You have only one life. It's not going to come back, man. If somebody takes you away, a dictator takes it away and kills you, you're dead. You're gone. Your history. Now, the pandemic has shown everybody your life is important. You could get a virus and poof, 5 days you're gone.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to suffer. So everybody's focus is gone to health. Now, American data shows spending on healthcare for the individual is 15% in the last 1 year of their life compared to the whole lifetime spending. Geriatric care is the fastest growing business in America. India too, we have 130 million people above the age of 60. Of course, many of those people don't have money. But very soon, the baby boomers born in the 50s and 60s are retiring. Our parents were baby boomers.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sort of a baby boomer. I'm born in 58. You're all young people. All right, I'm past 60. But many people who are retiring now have got money. And they're going to live longer, 75, 80, compared to your parents who died younger, right? And they're going to spend more on healthcare. So when you have a larger number of elderly people with more buying power and living longer, you know, you spend more money on healthcare. The world's average lifespan is 71 years today. India was 21 years in 1947, I think, when it got freedom. Now, India's lifespan is, I think, women 67, men 64. Women live longer than men. They'll outlive the men. So when a situation comes, when it's happening today, where many people live longer, then healthcare is taking off. And today, the world has more billionaires than any point of time in history. And what is the most important thing a billionaire wants? One more year of good quality life. They're willing to spend $100, $200 million to get one more year of life when you are coming to 90. So a lot of money is going in life enhancement, in stem cell research, in DNA research, and all kind of anti-aging activities in the United States. All of them are spending a lot of money, and that is only going to accelerate. So I think healthcare is expanding in the US, is the biggest cost in the US today, 17% of GDP, if I'm right, and is increasing at a rapid pace in India too. It's suddenly very high in Japan. In all the mature economies, is very high in UK and in Europe. India too, in the next 4 or 5 years, there is a huge upsurge of spending on healthcare.
I think a related question for the healthcare sector itself. How do you see digitalization in healthcare in India?
See, I'm going to give a TV interview on this maybe 2 days later. You see, we have to reimagine healthcare. Now, what is healthcare? Healthcare is about wellness. We have to be in good health. How can we be in good health? Digitally, we can get all the inputs to be in good health. With IoT devices, you can monitor our heartbeat, our blood flow, our health, our sugar, etc., and make sure that we eat the right kind of food and do the right kind of exercise, right? So a set of companies in that area is coming up. You know, Tama, that Junjanwala showed us a company.
Yes, Twin Digital.
Diabetes management, which is all a technology company.
Yes.
Then the food industry, a lot of healthy food companies are coming up to give you the healthy food. Wellness company in terms of exercise and yoga and all that is coming up in a very big way. And then the treatment. If you fall ill, what happens to you? You can do consultation by video today. You can do consult any specialist anywhere. There's a lot of data available. And then the pharma industry, new kind of compound, DNA research. You know that drugs don't impact 30% of people because the DNA is mutated. So you're going to have DNA specific medicine coming very soon. It's already there in the US. It will come to India too. Then after that, if you fall ill and you go and you're hospitalized, you've got robotic surgery coming, 3D imaging of your entire body, non-invasive surgery, all that taking place. And then recuperation and rejuvenation, and then anti-aging. If you look at the entire flow of healthcare, every aspect of healthcare is getting disrupted from the old model and is getting digital, and new products and new technologies are coming up in every single way. So there's a lot of scope for people there, but the key there is two things. One, you need capital to do research, and two, you have to learn to market. Marketing and regulation, the biggest barriers to better technology. But now, because of COVID, there's an acceleration of approvals, and regulations are taking a back seat. And for the first time, India allowed video consultation with specialists. They were not allowing it earlier. They allowed it because nobody could go out. So you see this kind of change. So we have to reimagine the entire chain of healthcare.
I think a follow-up question from the same person, Sailaja. What about electronic medical records? As of now, medical fraternity feels it is an overhead. By when would that be accepted?
I think your Aragya Setu records are all electronic. Covin is all electronic. Ayushman Bharat is all electronic. Many good hospitals have got electronic. Other day I had gone with my wife to see my doctor in Manipal. All the records are there electronic. So what are we talking? It's already there. The key is, what kind of a product are you selling? Is it useful?
Yeah.
Many of them are still trying to create the software for that, but you need to have products. I think slowly it is coming up. But you got to come with a business model because doctors are not willing to invest. And hospitals are not willing to invest. So you can't come out with a SaaS model where they pay a little bit every month and they can take that, and hopefully you will continue to grow. And that's how we can build a business case. So the business model innovation is required in that area.
Understood. I hope that answers your question. Something going beyond, health. Yeah, it answers her question. So this was a few questions we had collected before the session itself. So one of the questions that was very common to many of our startups was, how do we deal with business unfriendly policies across our local settings? For example, tendering, government contracts, all kinds, and what role can the government really play in easing business environment for startups? I know there are a lot of policies in place, but implementation is a completely different, matter.
We have to accept in government contracting, there's a lot of corruption, and you people are not used to corruption because you are not people who indulge in corruption.
Yes.
So you have a problem. Now, there are three ways of handling it. One, you partner with people who handle the government system. So you are providers of technology, you are providers of great input, and they can use that to compete, and you get your money and you're out. You don't bother what they do. Second thing is you only tackle the private sector where, there is very, very less corruption, and many of people are eager to accept new technologies. And the third, you create new models whereby with your capital, you can offer free subscription for 1 or 2 years to get them hooked. Then slowly start charging them. Like I said, you are very good at technology. You will come out with new methods, new ways of technology, but you must improve your business modeling. Business model innovation is very, very key. And that is where I think the failure rate is the highest. Because in India, people are not willing to accept new technology. They're not willing to pay. Now, of course, the situation has become much different. But still, that barrier is still there because we are not a technology-oriented society.
Yeah.
We are improving compared to 5 years back. In America, technology dominates in all facets, right? They understand that they're willing to spend. Here, it is happening on a scale of 1 to 10. We are maybe 4. By 2025, could be 7. America, maybe 9.
Right. Are there any other questions, guys? Or shall I continue? Okay. Another question that was posed by a startup of ours was, according to you, what is the right growth mantra for scale-up stage startups? Is it technology or should it be more people-centric?
No.
Yeah.
You have to be technology-centric.
Yeah.
And you have to be marketing-centric. Technology and marketing. Because the technology to be absolutely scalable. Infinitely scalable. Because today, what is technology? Software.
Yeah.
You can scale it up. You know how to do it. Then you need cloud. Cloud is scalable. Correct? And you need devices in the hands of people. Devices are there already.
Yeah.
Right? So you need marketing dollars. So technology is important, and marketing, and then of course people. Because if you have technology and marketing dollars by digital marketing, your need for people will come down. How do social media companies get millions of subscribers every day? They're not having millions of people, right? Everybody downloads, everybody uses it, correct? Because why? It is software, scalable, devices, huge numbers, network, and then you are there. But you got to spend money on marketing. So you got to think through the entire process for scalability.
And at what stage do you think Indian startups should look at foreign markets?
Well, my view is B2C, you have to look at India because we don't understand consumer behavior in America and other countries.
Yeah.
B2B, you must create a global product. B2B for enterprise, your product should be a global product. Why is that? Because we are part of the Anglo-Saxon business world. And that is the dominant business theme today. So your product should be capable of being used in the West and in India, maybe in Japan, maybe in Southeast Asia, maybe in China, if at all. The Chinese are very different, the Japanese are different. But you got to build B2B product for the world, because you must treat the whole world as a market. And you'll probably get bigger revenues, faster assimilation in the West than India.
I think another one was sort of like not a question so much, but an impression that people tend to have that India does have one of the highest numbers of startups, but our success rates seem to be very low compared to the rest of the world. Why do you think? Or
Illappa, see, China's GDP is $16 trillion. India's GDP is $3 trillion. America's GDP is $22 trillion.
yeah,
America has got 450 unicorns. China has got about maybe 250. India has got nearly 60.
yeah,
So India is growing. I mean, compared to a GDP, this is pretty big.
it's pretty big.
So, we must understand the context in which we work. Because so many people, silly people say, oh, you guys are very big in services. Why have you not produced a Microsoft? Why don't you have a Google? Why don't you have a Amazon?
Yeah,
Why there is no Facebook? I mean, you got to understand, man, this is a small economy. I mean, is there Amazon and Facebook and all in Germany, $5 trillion? Is it there in Japan, $5 trillion? Is it there in the UK, $3 trillion? Is it there in Europe, $20 trillion? It's not there. Why in America? Because the economy is very big. Capital is much more available in abundance. Technology assimilation is there because they started the journey 50 years back, correct? Per capita income is $50,000. Everything works together. So you need the environment to be successful, to create those kind of giant companies.
absolutely. I think we have a question from Sudha Subramanian. Go ahead. Go ahead, ask your question, Sudha. Okay. Sudha, can you hear us, or maybe I'll just ask you a follow-up question, Mr. Pai. So we definitely see, I mean, even in the IIT, ecosystem over the years, we've seen how entrepreneurs are really maturing in their mindset, the exposure that and a lot of it is a result of the exposure that they are getting. What do you think are the yardsticks that they should use to benchmark their success? Or is it too early for them to do that?
I'm a finance guy.
Yeah.
For me, the only yardstick is how many unicorns you created. Okay? Because you create great technology, but somebody has to buy the damn stuff, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Somebody has to use it. Now you can create great tech and say, hey, see this, beautiful thing, how it works. Yeah. Then, I'm a consumer. What does it mean to me?
Yeah.
Because you are into translational technology. And 95% is translational technology. It's not creation of very new blue sky research and technology, correct? That is the intersection of science and technology. So, to me, the success rate of companies that come out and become unicorns are the success rate. For example, if you look at the Stanford system, what is the benchmark? Tell me, Tama. How many unicorns and big companies you created? That's all, right?
That's it, yes.
That's it. Very simple to understand. And then how will you evaluate?
I think we have a question from Binesh Kumar. He's asking, sir, we are still facing huge challenges in retail market, mainly from China.
Ama.
Yeah,
you're facing big challenges because the Chinese make better quality products cheaper. Why is that? They use more technology, mass production, better productivity. They are much more disciplined in working. So we must compete by using more automation. Remember, I'm on the board of a company called Havels. You know Havels well. They set up a robotic factory to make air conditioning near Delhi. Their productivity is better than China. Why? It's fully automated. If you have an automated robotic factory with the best equipment, with the same, what is the distinction? There's nothing, right? Because the human factor comes down. The human factor is important. Sadly, our productivity is poorer. For example, a German may get 5 times the salary of a Chinese, but the German produces more than the Chinese. They're more productive. So I think there are 2 things which make countries and economies work: productivity of capital, productivity of labor. So if you want to compete with China, one, you got to have mass production to reduce cost. Second, you got to have a much higher level of automation to make sure quality and costs are controlled and there's consistency. And third, you have to set up a distribution network to sell. Because what the Chinese do, the Chinese sell on price.
Yeah.
They sell on price. So our Indian traders go buy because it's so cheap and they can make a good money in a short period of time. So they all go buy and they trade, right? So if you want to beat that, you must have distribution, maybe do direct distribution. That's why Amazon and Flipkart and Jio are fantastic marketing tools for Indian companies to distribute.
Yeah.
Because the cost of distribution comes down dramatically and you can put your superior products there and you can beat everybody. Because most people to buy Chinese goods of some higher value, they're hesitant because they're not very sure how long it lasts about the quality. And the Japanese goods are very expensive, correct? That's why you see in North India, I think there are many companies in Delhi who sell electronic devices. They're doing very well, right?
Yeah.
You read about them. How are they doing very well? Because good product, they make it here, maybe make it in China, and they're able to sell at a reasonable price with much lower margin, and they're able to sell.
Right. Wow. So I think one final question, I think from the question is, when do you think India will become 5 trillion economy?
2026, provided the rupee dollar remains at 75. We missed 1 year. See, our problem in 5 trillion, $10 trillion is the rupee dollar movement. Now we got $612 billion of reserves. Now the net IT spending, IT income will be more than the net oil import into India starting this year. That is a very, very big plus for India. And now the supply chain costs in India are coming down. Supply chain costs in India were 14% of GDP. I think it's come down to 12% of the GST. With all the roads in the next 2 years, it'll come down to maybe 10%. China is at 6% of GDP. America is 5%. At 8% of GDP, we become very, very efficient. And that is a big, big plus today, because then we can create one single national market and distribute all across India. So I think those things are coming down. So I think 2026 will be very close to that.
I think the questions are pouring in. Shall we wrap it up with this last question?
No, I got time. You can take another 10 minutes.
Okay. So the next question is from Prasad. He's asking, what are the prediction of Edutech industry with the impact of COVID and adopting online schooling in education?
Look, schooling is always going to be online, offline. Online may be 25-30%. Offline is important because remember, children are not robots. Children are social creatures.
Yeah.
They have to grow up in a peer group. They have to grow up meeting people. They have to have emotional stability. They have to understand how the world works, understand many things, correct? And be a human being.
Yeah.
We can't be an island. We can't be a robot, self-centered, selfish, not knowing everybody. And that's why they have to go to school. They have to work with kids. They have to play cricket. They have to play football, dirty themselves, be naughty, get all that and come. That is the fun of schooling, and that should never go away. So part of the education can be online. So my belief, it will never be 100% online. We should never allow it in our society. We don't want to destroy future. So digital will be an input, a tool for them to learn better, learn faster, reduce their grunt work. So 25-30%, 35% will be there. In higher education, it may go to 40-45%. Because there, self-learning is much more. Because you're mature, you come to a particular stage, right? That you can do self-learning, interaction, using technology. But you're probably in college going to spend more time than you did earlier, because competition is going to intensify. You got a lot more inputs. In school, we got to reduce the burden of curriculum and everything so that children can play more, become more creative, think more, become more problem solvers rather than people who cram and go write an exam.
It's a good time to remove the JEE exams, Mr. Pai.
then how do you select people to come to Ayatima?
So that's
The problem is, how will you select? You only take in 1,000 people, 1,500 people. There are 50,000 people applying who want to get inside the beautiful campus.
I understand.
What will you do? How will you select? See, the problem of selection. That's the problem.
Yes.
What we must do, Tama,
Yeah.
is we must have 100 institutions like IITs,
Yeah.
triple ITs, and National Institute, NITs in the country, so that each one takes 100,000. There'll be 100,000 young people getting high quality engineers. Imagine if India were to produce 100,000 high quality engineers at the IIT Chennai standard, IIT Madras standard. It'll be fantastic, isn't it?
Absolutely. But with that comes the trained teachers or professors,
There are enough professors, man. Don't believe all that.
Okay.
You know that with technology we can do everything else.
Yes, that's true.
can teach a class of 500. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
we are seeing that with NPTEL here in IIT.
Yeah.
NPTEL program itself. Yes. Another question from Selva Kumar. He's asking, sir, can you please explain about Green Energy Fund, Green Deal related to climate change and carbon emission, related to UK, US with India?
See, today, many financial institutions saying we are not going to fund coal, we're not going to fund oil, we are going to fund green, because all the financial institutions have signed a green pledge. There's the inflection point. Now, the green pledge means they say you float bonds to borrow money for big companies to invest in green technologies, you'll get cheaper interest rates. And now many funds are being started for investment in new green technologies which are less energy intensive and more climate friendly. In America and the UK, it is taken off. In India, it's beginning to take off. At least I've seen in the last 2 months, 3 or 4 funds who come and say, why don't you invest, etc. So they're taking off. So you got to create a product which is far superior to what current products are in terms of energy use, in terms of impact on the environment. And you got to learn how to market it and see how to raise capital. We also need government to set up green funds. Like the software fund, that 10,000 crore fund, we need to have a green fund. Maybe, Tama, you must take the lead in IIT to talk to Professor Junjunwala, to talk to government to set up a 5,000 crore green fund. And this can be funded by the cess they have on coal. There's a 400 rupee per ton cess on coal for clean energy. But sadly, that money is going towards GST compensation.
Oh.
So that money, part of the money can be diverted in the next few years towards green. And I think that will be fantastic. And that will set this industry going. And we also need one more thing. We need carbon trading market to come up. What is the carbon trading market? On polluting industries which throw out large amounts of carbon, we must force them to adopt green technologies. And in case they don't adopt green technologies, they must buy carbon credits. Carbon credits given by people who are in green technologies. For example, in the latest quarter, Tesla got $350 million by selling green credits for their electric vehicle. Suppose you say, if you manufacture and sell one electric vehicle, you're entitled to 100 or 200 green credits. And you can sell that in exchange for somebody who produces an IC engine. So we need to have green carbon trading mechanisms and markets to be created in this country. And if that happens, we'll get a lot of funding for green energy.
Question from Sailaja is asking, some statistics say that percentage of working women population has come down over the last 10 years. Do you agree with that?
Look, I have studied the matter. I've written about it. Nisha Holla and I have written about it.
Yeah.
There are 3 things that are happening. India is becoming more prosperous. So women in rural areas who used to work in agriculture, in unskilled labor, etc., is coming down. They're not going and working. That's good. That's a good news. Okay?
Yeah.
They should not work like animals somewhere. Why should they work? Correct?
Absolutely.
Second thing is, what is happening is more and more girls are getting educated. Up to class 10, 80% of all the girls up to age 16 are in school. And today, more and more girls are going to college. Many more are going to postgraduate and PhD because they don't want to get married. For many girls in traditional families, to escape early marriage, they'll say, I'm going to college, they'll go to a PG, they'll do 2 PG, 3 PG in the hope of a job. But the sad truth, Tama, is there are more women graduates coming out in North India than South India.
Oh, is it?
The South India population is stabilized. There are more jobs in South India. So many women who do their graduate and graduate study, they're able to get jobs. In North India, there are jobs are not there. For example, UP produces 15 lakh engineers a year. 7 lakhs women. Where are the jobs for 7 lakh women graduates in UP? So they're all staying at home. They're not working. But the men can immigrate and come down south and go to Delhi and work somewhere. The women can't go. The families are not allowed there. Because of that, a large number of women are getting educated, are staying at home, they're not working. And the third important thing is, very, very clearly, we are seeing that more and more women prefer not to work after childbirth. You know, that is not the educated class to which you belong. I know people who got a basic degree in a small town or somewhere else, because earlier, because of poverty, they used to go and start working. Now they're not working. They're all, saying, I'll stay at home and look after the child. So, there's a decline, but we are making this, India is not giving jobs to women. See, there are social reasons that we have to explain all those reasons. And take it state by state. Each state is very different in this country.
Question from Selva Kumar. Ocean energy related research, patents and commercial products is dominated by UK, US in the world of marine energy market. Why India is still behind and not yet started?
Lack of investment. No Padma.
Yeah.
You put a lot of Padma, you'll get a market, correct? No Padma. No money. India is behind in many, many frontier areas.
Understood. Any other questions, guys? I think Muthu can probably take over at this stage.
Yeah, I think everyone can go on camera and take a picture with Mohan so they can
Mr. Pai, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Just hearing you. We watch you on TV, most of us. I mean, some of us are privileged enough to meet you in person. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tamaswati. Thank you very much. Thank you, Muthu.
So all of you can put your camera and take a picture with Mohan. It'll be a privilege for you. And Mohan, thank you so much. I know I asked you at the last minute only, but thank you so much. Thank you so much as always. Now, over to you, Arichana.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir, for the wonderful session, and thank you, Dr. Tama, for brilliantly chairing today's session. Thank you all the participants, and sorry for the minor issues that we had during the start. We apologize for saying. And we do have a feedback form for today's session, requesting the participants to kindly fill it up for us so that we can improve the upcoming session. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Best wishes, folks. Remember, you must get trained to raise capital. You're all good technology people, but you must get training to, raise capital, learn to market, learn to go push people to invest. All right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.